A bad accountant can cost you thousands, stress you out, or even put your business at risk. Today, we're breaking down the red flags, the green flags, and how to know when it's time to make a change.
Your creative genius deserves the same precision behind the numbers.
Welcome to Let's Get Fiscal,
hosted by Anastasia, Myiesha, and Danielle.
Part of the women-led team at Coterie Tax.
From smart tax moves to cash flow strategy,
we decode everything it takes to run a thriving creative business
so you can scale with confidence and sleep easy at night.
Press play and let's grow your business.
Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Myiesha.
And I am Anastasia. I'm a CPA and an enrolled agent. Doing a little double duty here. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of finding the accountant and tax preparer and everything that's right for you. So, there's a lot of really, really talented accountants and tax preparers and tax planners and bookkeepers out there. But I also say, it's kind of like a marriage with
that
someone.
Is fair. We know a lot about you. Yeah.
So when, you're going to have like this long-term relationship with this person. So I think like on average, people generally stay 7 years with the same person, and sometimes even more, sometimes generationally you're with the same firm for a really long time, and sometimes there's just kind of a mismatch.
Yeah.
Just like in any marriage or anything, when you have someone who is so deeply involved in your life, who's handling one of the most sensitive areas of your life, who really has a lot of the guidance that you need in order to move to the next level, there's certain things that you should be looking out for to just make sure that you mesh, just like when you're dating, there could be somebody that's super cool, all of this stuff. It's just not really totally working out, so it's not anything on either party's side. It's just how do you find that person that's really going to help push you to the next level?
Yes. So what do you think holds most creatives back from like switching accountants if it's not like a right fit for them just yet?
I think there's kind of two things.
Okay.
So one would be, accountants are kind of just like dying.
Figured you'd go with the retirement route because we do get quite a few that is like they're retiring after doing our things for 20 years or whatever, but you're like they're just dying.
Like a ridiculous amount of CPAs, like 80% or something like super crazy, reached retirement age in 2019. So like they are well past retirement. So we are moving into the next phase of their life cycle. So then that means that there's not really a lot of availability, so it's like, okay, I do want to move, but who do I go to? Because like all of the accountants, are they, if you find somebody, are they even taking new clients? Because everybody's overloaded because there's so few that are out there and available for you. And then another one that I see a lot is there's like a lot of guilt associated with leaving because it is kind of like a breakup, where you're just like,
I don't even break up with my phones very often. So like I keep my phone long overdue.
Called Blue Apron for me.
It's hard. It's hard to break up, even if it is like a business thing. It is like not personal whatsoever. Yeah, it can be difficult. I can see that.
Yeah. So, especially when I'm talking to someone who's considering switching, I always say we are all overloaded. We all have, new client inquiries all the time. So if there's ever a situation where somebody says, hey, I would like you to do less work, cool. That's great. It works totally fine. And then also at the end of the day, I want to make sure that my focus is mainly on your success and your business being successful. So part of that is sometimes making these harder decisions, but so that you can go to the next area, So I want to do whatever's best for you. So, like sometimes it's just not cost effective anymore. And, like there's nothing that I can do on my end because I have employees, I have benefits, I have a company culture that I really want to protect and make sure that it's really good because if you're going to stay with me for the next, 10, 15 years, I want to make sure that my team also stays with you so that you're not constantly
having new people. Having to relearn.
Right. Exactly. So sometimes sometimes all of those costs, depending on where the business is, it doesn't make sense anymore, So a lot of times that's totally fine, and I want what's best for your business and where you're at and all of those things. So I think a lot of tax preparers and accountants feel exactly the same way. There's like really no hard feelings, I might say like, oh, I miss you. And, I really hope the best. Let me know if you do something cool in the future. Like I'm always rooting for you.
We do get really like into them. Like, so much. And then we work with a lot of creatives too. So they do some really cool things. So it's really fun to be like, oh my God, no, that like, I help them do their taxes. Like I'm connected in some way.
But I'm like, do whatever's best for you. And, just really making sure that that's the case. And a lot of accountants feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And I think too, the industry is also moving more corporate. So you think like as more of the older generation are retiring, as you
not
like
necessarily dying, just retiring, going on to that next stage.
It is a sector where private equity is coming in and they're buying up a lot of these like traditionally mom and pop tax preparation places, combining them, making it like a national kind of more commodity style industry. So sometimes that doesn't necessarily fit with someone who wants more of like a boutique individualized feel. So, there's just going to be a lot of different changes as you see the industry continue to move towards those two like polar directions.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. So let's say that the breakup happens. How would you suggest a creative like interview new accountants when they're reaching out? Like, what are some of the things that maybe they should ask when they're like trying to see, is this going to be a better fit than what I had last time?
Yeah. I mean, some of it's, getting a little bit of a feel for kind of how they communicate with you, because one of the key things that you want to keep in mind is, again, you as the business owner are responsible for all of the decisions that are made for the business, and you're responsible for educating yourself as to why these decisions are being made. So if you're speaking to someone, are you able to ask them questions and you feel really comfortable with that? Are they easy to understand? Or, or does it just like kind of not make sense? Like sometimes, you have like the neurodivergent versus the neurotypical, if you have like those two kind of talking to each other, sometimes the messages gets a little bit warped. Yeah. So, you want to have someone who you do feel comfortable with. And like you've said, they end up knowing basically everything about you, sometimes more than what your girlfriend or your boyfriend or, your partner will know. So, just making sure that you're comfortable enough to be able to ask the questions, that they're, communicating with you in a way that you understand and that you feel like you can be open with them, because even something that might not seem important tax-wise could actually make a bit of a difference.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
It's like that communication piece, also getting a feel for how you're giving them information, do they have like a client portal, or are you putting everything in Dropbox, and how does that work for you? Do they send an organizer, or is it more of like an individualized format, and kind of asking about their process? Like, what do what are the expectations that you have of me?
Yeah.
Because it's just like any relationship. Yes, the expectation is that I'm going to, do your bookkeeping, do the tax planning, and file your tax return. Okay. But there's also expectations for you, because I can't prepare your tax return if I don't have the forms. I can't do your bookkeeping if I don't have your bank statements.
Yeah.
So there are different things that I can't do my job effectively if you're not an equal partner in this goal. So also just making sure that you're very clear on what their expectations of you are.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of cases where, like I said, accountants, they have a lot of inquiries all the time. So if you're the type of person that's going to just ghost and then call a few hours before and say, hey, I need you to do it right now.
Yeah.
They may, choose not to continue supporting you, So just making sure that you're clear on, what your expectations are of them. Are they only going to prepare your return? Are they going to do tax planning? Are they, what actually do you want from them? And then also, what do they want from you? Because again, if you are in more of, like a corporate situation, their requirements from you are going to be a little bit different than if you're in kind of more of that individualized boutique feel, where maybe they will be doing a little bit more for you than, if you're, like working with a place that's like an assembly line of tax returns. They're going to have different systems. So just, being clear about that. And then also making sure that they have the skills to, like they understand your industry, and then also what you want, and where you're going. Because there are tax accountants that, everybody specializes in something. So some, they just won't touch S corporations, or they only want to handle businesses that are within a certain income range, and that's where their specialty lies. So you want to make sure that their specialty and what services they're able to provide is what you need in order to support you and your business, and just making sure that there is a lot of that knowledge there. So, and a lot of this, these are things that you're kind of looking for when you are deciding, do I even need to switch? Because I think like even before you talk to another person, you have to decide, do I have to switch? Or is this just like a relationship that maybe needs like a recalibration of expectations, where maybe a couple of years ago, it was totally fine to only meet once a year because you were on a W-2 and you really didn't need any support. But now that you've started your own business, the business is growing, it has more needs, then you can just call them and say, hey, things have changed and I need a little bit of support. Everything is different. Can you provide that level of support to me?
Yeah.
And sometimes even that, like I said, just recalibration of what everybody's expectations are.
Yeah, just make sure you're on the same page. That makes sense. Yeah.
Because sometimes there is that difference. I always say it's kind of like a completely different language. So making sure that you're giving them a call and that everybody's speaking the same language and we have the same understanding of, what the situation is and what the relationship looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've given quite a few like different things to look at. If it's more of a recalibration, or if it's like, okay, this isn't going to be a fit. Let me see what like types of things I need to look for. Is there like a most important one out of those, you think? Or is it really just like the smorgasbord of all of those, like communication, expectations, and just making sure that they understand you and that you understand each other when communicating? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the accountant is somebody that you ideally should be working with pretty consistently, So is this somebody that you like working with.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I've had some potential clients come to me and say that, they would ask a question and the CPA would like scream at them.
What?
And like tell them how dumb they were and like why would they be like so stupid to ask that question and things like that. So
okay.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that's a very extreme scenario.
Yeah.
They still stayed with them for like years.
Oh.
Yes. So, is this person somebody that I guess you don't have to enjoy talking, but like I say, sometimes it's like the dentist, like you try to avoid going as much as possible, but when you go there, everybody's super nice. You have a great time, all of this stuff. They give you a lollipop at the end, whatever, it's the same kind of thing with your taxes, because if you are hesitant to reach out to them, then they're not going to get the information that they need in order to be able to help you effectively.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not, like I said, not necessarily the skills of that person. It's all, does their personality on top of their skills match what you as a person and your business need? Because we're really looking at your whole entire life, especially when we're talking about tax planning and, how we actually sit there and reach your goals so that you're off that constant hamster wheel of working, so you do need that partner that's going to do it with you.
Okay. So then with looking and interviewing and whatnot, do you have any suggestions for like knowing if you're being undercharged or underserved, but overcharged? And like, do you know what I mean? Like how,
overcharged things like that.
Overcharged and underserved. I think that's the phrase. Yeah. Like how to like kind of know if the pricing makes sense.
I mean, like I said, as, more kind of like corporate entities come into play, a lot of the pricing is more and more available.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can see like a lot of the big box, tax preparation places, they have a category where this is how much you pay if you want like a live person to do your return. So like that's going to be like the very minimum amount because that's like a sweatshop situation, So like, that's sweatshop pricing, so you can go and do the research and figure that out, or, you can call different places around, but, it is kind of that idea of you pay what, like you get what you pay for. And normally, even if you are paying some of those higher prices, they are more than happy to explain like the value that you'll be getting out of paying those additional services.
I mean, I've seen you do that before where you're like, okay, was where you're at. I looked at your tax return and they're not even a client yet or anything like that. But it's just like, okay, if you do these things, this is what you say. This is what I'm going to charge you. So you could just see that like,
right. Yeah. Find an investment that pays 10X,
and you're
1 year.
Yeah. And then that's fine. And so it can be very helpful. But then that's again of just like finding someone who will explain to you why. Like, why are we at these costs, or what does this mean, or what do those services mean? So that makes sense. Yeah. And then is there a best time of year to switch accountants? I feel like I know this one.
I mean, I always say time is money. So the earlier, the better. But if you do approach an accountant, I would say between January and April, really accept that you're going to get an extension. And in a lot of cases, that's probably best because then that gives the person enough time to really sit down, get to know you and your situation and focus, kind of mid-year. Because, I mean, maybe you're in a situation where you don't want the last person to file your current year tax return, or if you say, okay, I'm going to go to them in August, then they're just going to recommend to amend your current, your prior year tax return, and now you're paying double for the thing. So it's not necessarily don't look for accountants, during that time frame, but just be aware that a lot of the really good ones are going to ask you to get an extension so that they can take the time to really focus on you and just kind of be fair to their whole client base at that point.
Yeah, it's fair. And also, if you want to do it well, we're going to have to dig in. You have to research. So it's going to,
there may be rework that needs to happen and things like that. But, if you want to have like effective tax planning that's going to be for the current year, I would say, reaching out in July and August, because a lot of times when I want to like make the latest that I want to make really big moves for your tax strategy is like September. So in order for me to say, here are the big tax strategy moves that I want you to make, we need your financials done, which means we need to catch up your bookkeeping. Even if you've had bookkeeping done, we want to review it. We want to make sure that we agree with it, that everything's reconciled and there's no issues and what have you, so we need a little bit of time before then. But yeah, I mean, we talked about like how with New York, you have to do the pass-through entity tax election by March 15th. In California, you have to do that by June 15th. So there are some things that have to happen very early in the year. So that's why I would say, even if you're still like reaching out to them in January, they can kind of take a look at where you're at, what they think, and give you a quick, here's what you should do right now. And then let's hold off, make that payment to the IRS because the extension only goes for the piece of paper. So we'll make that and then we'll finalize everything, once we've kind of had enough time to sit down and really go through all of your documents and review all of this with you so that you feel really confident kind of moving forward. So I almost say there's not really a bad time to do it. There's just, some
adjusting
seasons will take a little bit longer than others, to get you that feedback.
Nope, that's fair. So what is like the first question? If they're like, okay, we listened to this, what should they go and ask their accountant before making a change or making a new one? Is there like it's a good one of just what to ask?
I mean, it really depends on if you want to continue the relationship or not, and really if you're in a place where you just want to cut ties, you just send them an email and say, hey, I've decided I'm going to, make a different decision this next year. Totally fine, and then just make sure that when you are switching, you download all of your documents.
Your records.
Because I mean, accountants will, in some cases, keep information for previous clients, but it's not a guarantee that they're going to keep all of your stuff. And especially if you kind of come back to them like 2 or 3 years later, that's probably after their retention period. So then they're not going to keep copies of it, or maybe they only keep copies of their work papers or things like that. So it's really on you to make sure that everything is downloaded. And then also just working with them to switch over, any access, making sure that they don't have any access to any of your accounts anymore. But that's why I always say, like, especially with any software that you're using, so QuickBooks, Xero, Gusto, ADP, whatever it is, making sure that at the end of the day, you as the business owner are the primary owner of the account, even before anything is terminated. That way, you don't have to worry about if they're busy in January and they don't have time to switch over access to you. And then now you can't get the new person to give you access. You have full control over who has access to your information, and you can, provide and remove access at any given time.
That makes sense. Okay. I mean, I've seen that definitely before when we've had new clients that are worried about breaking up with their old accountants. And then recently had one company like, oh yeah, they were totally fine. Okay. They said I could give you their email so that they can get the stuff. And it was, I don't know what I was so stressed about. Which is what we told them. We were like, yeah, they're probably not going to care. But be like, hey, good luck. And, see where it goes. So, yeah.
Yeah. No. And there's different things just built into the ethical standards of a CPA and an enrolled agent that, if, even if you haven't paid, there are still certain pieces of documents that we have to provide. Maybe if you haven't paid for it, I don't have to give you my work papers, but I do have to give you back all of your original documents, So an accountant and an enrolled agent can't necessarily withhold your information due to non-payment. But at the same time, it's good to, just make sure everything's paid up. Everybody will give you all of their stuff because like ethically, as an enrolled agent and a CPA, I have to give you back your stuff, So it's really, really not a big deal at all, so.
Yeah, so it's not so scary. But really, it's just like you would have that same conversation that we're always telling them to have of just like, what is it that do you want? Where do you see yourself? And does this seem like a good fit to get to that like future you that you want to get to with your business and everything? So,
yeah, because like I said, there's always different seasons, and I mean, we see it a lot of time in the corporate accounting world, like the person that's doing the accounting for like a little, like I guess like a farmer's market booth, is going to be different than the type of accountant that's doing it for, like a Fortune 500 company, So as you and your business grow, your needs are going to be different.
Yep.
So it's just going to kind of necessitate, like a different relationship. And, sometimes the current person can provide that for you, or sometimes, that really isn't within their wheelhouse. So they just recommend that you go to another person that has the abilities to do that, And sometimes, like I said, like, when it comes to tax preparation, sometimes the software forces you to pay for each individual state. So if you move to a different state and you're the only person that they have, it might not make sense for them to,
like keep you on.
So a lot of times it's really like no hard feelings. There's no anything there. But it's just recognizing when you are ready for that next step and being the advocate for yourself and for your business and really saying like, hey, this relationship, how it is, it's not going to work out, and looking for someone who can really take you to that next level. But again, it is a partnership.
Yeah. I mean, we know a lot.
Yeah. I'm gonna have some requirements of you, because in order to get to those next levels, it does take a lot more than just, forwarding one W-2.
Yeah. There's more to it. Yeah.
Yep. So just making sure it's somebody that you feel like you can really communicate all of that information to is going to be really, really important.
I love it. Okay.
So if you have any other questions about how to find the right partner in taxes for you, feel free to put a comment below or send us an email, and we are more than happy to talk about your particular situation.
Bye, guys.
That's a wrap on Let's Get Fiscal. Ready to stop guessing and start saving? Click the link in the show notes, grab your consult, and let's make your business work for you, not the other way around. You've got this.